Police storm a hotel room. Again. Drugs, violence, control, again. But this time the name on the warrant is bigger than the room itself. Sean Combs, Diddy, Puff Daddy. The man who made millions dance, and maybe even more stay silent. While the media feast on the sensational details, bedroom cameras, suitcases full of drugs, ex-girlfriends in tears, one uncomfortable question lingers. What kind of system allows one man to abuse power for decades without anyone stepping in? The Diddy story isn't a celebrity scandal. It's a blueprint for something bigger, for a structure built on fear, for a culture that values control over compassion, for a world where drugs aren't just consumed, but weaponized, not to escape, but to dominate. And while talk shows debate whether Diddy should be cancelled, we forget those who got swallowed by this power structure, the women, the crew, the scene itself. Because power abuse rarely starts with a scream. It starts quietly, with a line, a wanna try too, with that first night you can't remember and nobody cares to ask. Welcome to a world where drug-fueled control is just business as usual. Welcome to a web of fear that worked, because everyone helped spin it. Ready for part 2? Fear as a tool. Sean Combs didn't just produce songs, he created environments, worlds where anything was possible, as long as you knew who wrote the rules. Drugs weren't an accident, not a slip-up, not a lifestyle. They were part of the choreography. They made you compliant. They induced fear, because fear works. It's quiet. It slips through hallways. It hides in contract clauses. It pretends to be loyalty. And at some point everyone just says, "That's just Diddy." A phrase that explains everything and clarifies nothing. But Diddy wasn't alone. No one rules that long without help. Managers who looked the other way, lawyers who covered deals, friends who suddenly went blind, and the fans, they danced. Instead of looking, fear wasn't just physical, it was existential. It turned DJs into couriers, dancers into property, partners into tools. Those who objected disappeared, not just from the crew, from the scene, from history, because fear sells, not with weapons, with image, with promises, with contracts no one questions. That people are speaking out today, that's new. Not out of remorse, but because it's going viral, because threads roll, because TikTok won't shut up, because a generation is saying, "Not with us." But what happens when fear stops working, when control loses its shine, when the myth begins to crumble? What's left of an industry when the conductor no longer plays? The myth of the isolated case. Cassie, the first one to break the silence, not because she wanted to, but because she survived. Her lawsuit laid bare what others only whispered in VIP lounges and studio hallways: forced drugging, rape, surveillance, psychological warfare. And what happened next? Diddy's team paid her off, fast. One day, 24 hours, done. No court ruling, no investigation, just silence sealed with cash. And then, the dominoes started falling. Suddenly more women spoke up. Not just about one night, not about one mistake, but about patterns, control, repetition. And slowly, even mainstream outlets couldn't look away. It wasn't about Diddy anymore. It was about a system that runs on repetition and denial. The most dangerous lie wasn't what Diddy did. It was that he was the only one. Control as a culture. What happens when the predator controls the narrative? When media empires depend on silence? When industry partners sign the same NDAs? When publicists, security, and even therapists all play along? What happens when the price of telling the truth is your career, your safety, sometimes your life? They say it was a party scene, a wild lifestyle, but in reality, it was a production, a calculated environment where submission was staged and control was rehearsed. Women were recruited, groomed, watched, taught to play their roles in silence. And Diddy, he wasn't out of control. He was control. A producer in every sense, but not just of music, of fear, of obedience, of stories rewritten before they could ever be told. What looked like chaos was never chaos. It was a culture that made money off women's silence and then used that money to buy even more. From allegations to evidence. For months, these were just allegations. Then came the footage. A woman, running, half naked, terrified, caught on hotel cameras in Los Angeles. The internet exploded. Even Diddy's loyal defenders fell silent. Suddenly, no one wanted to be seen backing him. Not brands, not friends, not even former collaborators. What changed? The visuals. Because pain, trauma, even rape are often ignored until they can be consumed in pixels. Suddenly it wasn't, he said, she said. It was, he did, caught on tape. CNN aired it, TMZ looped it, read it, dissected it, and America watched it. Proof doesn't always bring justice, but it changes everything. It forces people to choose, keep pretending, or start asking questions about the system behind the man. The industry wall. So why did it take so long? Why did this stay hidden for decades? Because the music industry doesn't just produce hits, it produces myths. It builds walls, PR walls, legal walls, emotional walls, to protect the money, not the people. Behind every abuser, there's a publicist rewriting history, a label executive signing hush checks, a lawyer crafting silence. They say he was powerful. But that's not the whole truth. He was protected by fear, by gatekeepers, by a culture that confuses success with immunity. And let's be honest, it's not just Diddy. Every time a survivor is asked, why now? The answer is simple, because back then, no one was listening. But now, the cracks are visible, the wall is shaking, and some are starting to run. Collapse in real time. The empire is crumbling. Multiple homes raided, devices seized, security staff turning into witnesses, former partners lawyering up. Even the inner circle, once untouchable, is starting to fracture. No more red carpets, no more brand deals, just subpoenas, headlines, and silence. And yet, Diddy hasn't been charged, not officially. But the weight of the evidence, it's not going away. This isn't just a scandal, it's an autopsy on a power structure that mistook fear for loyalty and silence for respect. And the fall? It's not poetic, it's procedural. Federal agents, investigative reporters, courtroom doors slowly swinging open. What we're witnessing isn't the end of a career, it's the exposure of an ecosystem. Collapse in real time. The empire is crumbling, multiple homes raided, devices seized, security staff turning into witnesses, former partners lawyering up. Even the inner circle, once untouchable, is starting to fracture. No more red carpets, no more brand deals, just subpoenas, headlines, and silence. And yet, Diddy hasn't been charged, not officially. But the weight of the evidence? It's not going away. This isn't just a scandal, it's an autopsy on a power structure that mistook fear for loyalty and silence for respect. And the fall? It's not poetic, it's procedural. Federal agents, investigative reporters, courtroom doors slowly swinging open. What we're witnessing isn't the end of a career, it's the exposure of an ecosystem. Conclusion and call to action. If you made it this far, you've seen the cracks, heard the echoes, felt the weight. Now ask yourself, how many others are still behind that mask? This isn't a question of guilt, it's a question of pattern, and patterns don't lie. The Diddy case isn't a headline, it's a mirror, held up to an industry that still rewards silence more than truth. So speak it, share it, don't let the next name need 30 years to be believed. Outro CTA, leave a comment, start the conversation. And if this story matters to you, subscribe for more, because this is just one crack in a much bigger wall. Tell your story, share this video, add your voice to the fight. If this moved you, don't scroll. Subscribe to PaperLoud for more critical stories that challenge the silence. Comment, share, stay awake, stay loud. Until next time, stay human. Take care.